The WNBA has produced a plethora of tremendous talent throughout the years, with legends shaping the game in ways that will be remembered for centuries. From powerful post players to explosive guards, the league has produced some of the most talented basketball players in history. Among these legends, Sheryl Swoopes and Cynthia Cooper stand out not only for their achievements, but also for their contributions to the league's growth and visibility. However, in recent years, a brewing feud between these two iconic figures has drawn attention to a larger issue in the WNBA. The changing dynamics between veterans and rising stars, particularly in the case of Caitlin Clark, the young phenom who has shaken up the league in unprecedented ways.
This isn't just for Caitlin, but you asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that...
Before delving into the core of Swoopes and Cooper's disagreement, it's critical to understand the circumstances that have led to this friction. Caitlin Clark, a WNBA rookie, has taken the league by storm. Her on-court performance has been nothing short of remarkable, with record-breaking statistics that have astounded both fans and pundits. Clark has broken over 60 records in her first season alone, which is nearly unheard of for a player at this stage of their career. She has not only succeeded in scoring, but has also been a leader in assists, demonstrating her ability to improve her teammates' performances.
Continues to be box office. Clark and the Fever currently lead the WNBA in average.
Clark's ability to shoot from long range, reminiscent of NBA greats, combined with her court vision and passing skills, has made her a complete player. She's more than just a scorer. She's a playmaker, a floor general, and a game tempo control specialist. Her impact has been felt throughout the league, and she has already been compared to some of the best WNBA players in history. However, great success brings great scrutiny, and not everyone agrees that Clark is the next big thing in women's basketball. Sheryl Swoopes, one of the most decorated players in WNBA history, has expressed her reservations about Clark's meteoric rise. Swoopes, who was the first player signed by the WNBA when it was founded in 1996, understands what it takes to succeed in the professional ranks. She won 3 MVP awards and 4 WNBA championships, and was instrumental in building the league's reputation during its early years. Despite her admiration for Clark's talent, Swoopes has not been shy in expressing her doubts about the young star's rapid rise to fame. In a now infamous statement, Swoopes questioned whether Clark's accomplishments were truly as groundbreaking as they appeared. Swoopes also noted that Clark has the benefit of an extra year of college eligibility because of the COVID-19 epidemic, allowing her to beat records established by athletes like Kelsey Plum in a shorter amount of time.
Set that record in 4 years. Well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year, and then there's another year, you know what I mean?
Swoopes' words sparked a blaze of discussion, with fans and teammates taking sides. On one side, many agreed with Swoopes' observation that comparing players across various periods may be problematic, particularly when the rules and conditions are not the same. On the other side, opponents accused Swoopes of downplaying Clark's accomplishments out of a feeling of insecurity or envy. Sheryl Swoopes' appraisal of Caitlin Clark's ascent in the WNBA generated a discussion over how legends see the next generation of players. Some believe that Swoopes' comments come from a place of protective pride for the standards set by players of her era. Swoopes, after all, had to battle for every ounce of notoriety she got while playing in a league that was fighting for attention and respect. The problems she experienced were not the same as those faced by today's athletes, and logically, she would react differently to records being broken under different circumstances.
Already had an extra year to break that record. So is it...
Others say Swoopes' criticism derives from jealousy. At such a young age, Caitlin Clark is already doing things that many veterans only dream of. Athletes who formerly controlled their sport may feel apprehensive when a new talent appears and begins to dominate the headlines. Whether Swoopes' remarks are based on fair criticism or personal sentiments, they have highlighted a larger issue: the conflict between the old guard and the new school. The WNBA is no stranger to generational splits, and Swoopes' remarks are symptomatic of the friction that can occur when young talents begin to overshadow the legends who paved the path. It's a natural development in athletics, but one that frequently leads to conflict, particularly when the older players feel their legacies are being challenged.
But as Caitlin Clark is the all-time, whatever it is, I don't even know what the number is, but that's the way it'll be. And I don't.
Enter Cynthia Cooper, another WNBA great and former teammate of Swoopes during the Houston Comets' glory years. Cooper, known for her fierce competitiveness and clutch performances, has taken a very different approach in evaluating Caitlin Clark. Rather than criticizing the young star, Cooper has emerged as one of her most vocal supporters.
I heard, and I can imagine, because it's not today, but back in the day, you can't find 10 women at a playground ready to play ball. So
Cooper has lauded Clark's skill set, work ethic, and effect on the league, even suggesting that she may be the key to propelling the WNBA to new heights. Unlike Swoopes, Cooper believes that the league needs to evolve and grow, and that young players like Clark are critical to that process. She has urged her fellow veterans to help the younger generation rather than tear them down, claiming that mentoring and encouragement would eventually revitalize the WNBA. Cooper's attitude is more than simply protecting Clark. It is also about calling for a culture reform inside the league. She feels that Clark's success helps everyone, not just him. More attention to the WNBA, more spectators in the stands, and more sponsorship revenue mean that the league as a whole can expand, and future players will have more possibilities. Cooper believes that the growth of a player like Clark should be celebrated rather than feared.
12, winning on the road with Kelsey Mitchell, the absolute truth. I'm sitting there.
Swoopes and Cooper's opposing viewpoints have caused a noticeable schism between the two WNBA icons. What was once a strong on-court partnership with the Houston Comets has evolved into a public disagreement over the league's direction. This divide has only grown as fans and players have taken sides in the debate.
Point shooter. She's a great passer, not a mediocre passer, not so-so. She is a great passer, but also she's crafty.
For many, the conflict between Swoopes and Cooper is symptomatic of a greater generational rift within the WNBA. The league is at a crossroads, with the old generation of players who created the league from the ground up now seeing their records and legacies challenged by a new wave of talent. This is not unique to the WNBA. It occurs in every sport when newer players come in and push the limits of what was previously deemed achievable.
Away from what she's done, but if you're talking about breaking records, then if this player did it in this amount of time, then you...
However, in the case of Swoopes and Cooper, the conflict appears to be more than just a disagreement over Caitlin Clark. It raises fundamental questions about how the WNBA should move forward. Should the league continue to honor and protect its pioneers' achievements, or should it embrace the new era with open arms, even if it means breaking records and milestones set by legends like Swoopes?
Records. There seems to be some haterade in the league in regards to Clark, starting with WNBA legend Sheryl.
The role of social media in the Swoopes-Cooper debate is an important consideration. In the age of Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, debates like these can quickly spiral out of control, with fans and commentators amplifying every comment and escalating minor disagreements into full-fledged debates. Swoopes' initial comments about Clark were shared rapidly and dissected on social media, resulting in a wave of backlash that may have been more intense than in a pre-social media era. Similarly, Cooper's defense of Clark has received a boost from social media, with supporters rallying behind her message of support and mentoring. The debate between Swoopes and Cooper has taken on a life of its own, with hashtags and memes circulating online as fans take sides in the feud. Social media has transformed what may have been a private debate into a public spectacle, and in doing so, it has compelled both Swoopes and Cooper to double down on their respective viewpoints.
You have any idea how that serves to stain any kind?
Caught in the thick of this rivalry is Caitlin Clark herself. Despite the controversy surrounding her rise, Clark has remained committed to her game and continues to perform at an elite level. However, there's no denying that the attention generated by the Swoopes-Cooper feud has added a new layer of pressure to her young career. Clark has been thrown into the limelight in ways that few rookies ever are, and she suddenly finds herself at the heart of a discussion over the future of the league.
How did you feel about your first performance?
Yeah, I thought we played really hard. Just a great atmosphere for women's basketball. I think it's a good kickoff to the WNBA season.
For her part, Clark has handled the issue with grace, accepting the comments from veterans like Swoopes while continuing to show thanks for the opportunity she has been given. In interviews, Clark has made it obvious that she appreciates the players who came before her and knows the value of their contributions to the league. At the same time, the WNBA is experiencing rapid growth. Television ratings are rising, sponsorship deals are expanding, and young stars like Caitlin Clark are attracting new fans to the sport. To continue to thrive, the league must find a way to honor its past while also welcoming the future. This entails encouraging the growth of new talent, even if it means breaking records and surpassing legends. In the midst of this, Cynthia Cooper has called for WNBA unity. She believes that the league is stronger when its players, both past and present, are working together toward a common goal. Cooper has urged her fellow veterans to mentor the younger generation, to help them navigate the challenges of professional basketball, and to be proud of the fact that the league they helped build is now thriving.
Bridge that gap between what's going on today and what we experience, and it will help the younger generation to know our experiences so that they don't make the same mistakes and we can.
Cooper's message is one of hope and optimism. She believes that the WNBA has the potential to become one of the premier professional sports leagues in the world, but that this can only happen if the players and the league itself embrace change. For Cooper, Caitlin Clark represents the future of the WNBA, and she wants to make sure that the young star has the support she needs to succeed. Just know that the WNBA is at a turning point, and how it navigates this moment will determine its trajectory for years to come. Whether Sheryl Swoopes and Cynthia Cooper can resolve their disagreements remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: the future of the WNBA is bright, and athletes like Caitlin Clark are leading the way. At the same time, she has also highlighted that she is focused on creating her stamp on the game and helping to drive the WNBA to new heights. The conflict between Sheryl Swoopes and Cynthia Cooper is not just a personal feud between two legends, it's a reflection of the WNBA's current state. The league is at a crossroads, with a new generation of players like Caitlin Clark poised to take the game to the next level. The question is whether the WNBA will embrace this new era or be stifled by rivalries between the old guard and the rising stars. The WNBA faces a significant challenge in balancing respect for its history with the need for growth and evolution. The league is still relatively new, having been founded in 1996, and many of its pioneers are still active in the sport, whether as coaches, commentators, or ambassadors. This creates a unique dynamic in which the past is always present, and the accomplishments of players such as Swoopes remain fresh in the minds of both fans and players. Caitlin Clark's focus-driven approach on the basketball court has garnered her great notoriety, but what she accomplished on September 15, 2024, was nothing short of miraculous. Clark's unwavering dedication, smart playmaking, and unrivaled scoring talent resulted in an evening that WNBA fans will never forget. Clark surpassed the WNBA rookie single-season scoring record against the Dallas Wings, which Simone Augustus had held for over 20 years. Clark's career-high 35 points not only helped the Indiana Fever win a key game, but also cemented her spot as one of the league's finest players.
Caitlin Clark, who ended up assists shy of a triple-double back on Friday after they...
Caitlin Clark's climb to WNBA fame has always been fueled by concentration. Her ability to remain focused under duress has been one of her distinguishing attributes, from her time at the University of Iowa to her rise to prominence in professional basketball. But that fateful night, Clark's concentration was sharper than ever. She went into the game knowing she had the potential to surpass Augustus's record, but it wasn't the stats that drove her. It was the drive to win, compete, and leave all on the court. Her determination and focus paid off in the most spectacular manner conceivable as she lit up the scoreboard and led her side to victory.
Rebounds a game, one of the best in the league.
Clark frees up Boston for two more.
Two-man game in the middle third.
As the game began, Caitlin Clark was ready to set the tone. In the first quarter of play, He highlighted the heated competition between the Indiana Fever and the Dallas Wings as both teams sought an early advantage in the contest. Clark, who has always been a team player, first deferred to her teammates, allowing the game to run organically. Kelsey Mitchell made the opening scoring play, finding Nalissa Smith open for a beautiful layup. The Fever quickly established themselves in the paint, with Smith pushing fiercely to the hoop.
Caitlin Clark, who ended up a assist shy of a triple-double back on Friday after they took one away at the end of the game. Smith driving and Smith finishing.
Tara Mao of the Dallas Wings attempted a fast shot, but it missed the hoop. However, Natasha Howard was on hand to clean up, snagging the rebound and nailing a two-pointer. The intensity in the building increased as both sides swapped shots early on. Arco Gali took advantage of Kelsey Mitchell's defensive lapse, draining a three-pointer that threw the Dallas crowd into a frenzy. The Fever produced an almost instantaneous reaction. Aaliyah Boston went to the rim for a layup, keeping the Indiana offense moving.
But we've seen the feistiness of Lexi Hall since the Olympic break.
McCowan easily wins the...
However, the Dallas Wings showed no indications of giving up. Satu Sabali answered with her three-point shot, demonstrating the level of rivalry on the court. While both teams continued to exchange points, Nalissa Smith kept Indiana's momentum going with another layup, followed by more gutsy play by Boston. Natasha Howard missed a mid-range shot for Dallas, but Mao was there to collect the rebound and add 2 more points to the scoreboard. Both sides played with intensity, but it was evident that Caitlin Clark had yet to reach her full potential.
83.6, just a little bit less at fourth.
Oh, looking inside for Smith on the shot fake and muscles her way through.
The opening quarter saw more back-and-forth activity. Tasha Howard of the Dallas Wings hit a jumper, and Ogumo Wall added a nice step-back shot to increase the advantage. However, Nalissa Smith remained Indiana's dominating force inside, driving to the rim for another layup. As the time ticked down, Kelsey Mitchell had 2 shots from beyond the arc, missing the first but sinking the second, keeping Indiana alive.
Agumbawale feeding it back to Howard from the mid-range. Howard can't connect. There's McCowan with another offensive rebound.
Finally, Caitlin Clark made her presence known by hitting her first three-pointer of the game with a clean shot that had the fans ecstatic. Sabali soon countered with another crisp three-pointer for Dallas, but the tension on the field was apparent as both sides fought for control. Lexi Hull attempted a tough jumper for Indiana, while Natasha Howard responded with a jump shot for Dallas. The quarter, she was finished with Dallas leading Indiana by 8 points, 34-26. Although Caitlin Clark had just recently started to demonstrate her scoring ability, the Fever stayed competitive owing to the combined efforts of the whole squad.
Clark on a step back, buries a three.
In the second quarter, Caitlin Clark began to impose herself on the attacking end. She wasted no time and made a three-pointer straight away, energizing Indiana's offense and providing her side with the energy it needed. The Dallas Wings, led by Natasha Howard, answered with a slick reverse layup, but Clark remained persistent. A foul on Clark on a three-point effort led her to the free throw line, where she calmly made all 3 shots. Indiana was getting closer, and the audience could see the momentum changing.
Zune lobbing it in. McCowan just bullies her way inside for a pair. Her international duties with Germany also some.
Kalani Brown of Dallas attempted to calm the ship for the Wings with a jumper, but Clark's relentless scoring continued. She moved past defenders, finding her rhythm and driving in for a jumper, adding 2 more points to her total. Moments later, she drained another three-pointer, putting the Fever within striking distance of the Wings. Clark's ability to score from anywhere on the floor was on full show, and Dallas had no answer for her pinpoint accuracy.
Part of the challenge that Dallas has had all year. Clark catch and shoot, and knocks down her second three.
Very well executed for Kate.
Natasha Howard kept Dallas in the game with another layup, demonstrating her offensive abilities. But Indiana's Kelsey Mitchell replied promptly with a three-pointer, maintaining the pressure on the Wings. Boston contributed to the Fever's momentum with a difficult layup, overcoming a defender and showcasing Indiana's tenacity. Howard, showing no signs of slowing down, drove in for another layup, keeping Dallas ahead. Still, Mitchell responded with a beautiful jumper and a corner three-pointer, closing the distance between the 2 teams.
Pretty good case. And it's Howard beating the pack back.
The Fever's tenacity was on display when Nalissa Smith tipped in a missed shot by Boston, giving Indiana extra points. Dallas replied with Howard's mid-range jumper, but Boston followed with her shot from the same distance. Sabali, anxious to keep Dallas ahead, drove in for a jump shot, which extended the Wings' advantage still further. However, Caitlin Clark, ever the playmaker, found Kelsey Mitchell with a fantastic bounce pass, resulting in a backdoor layup. Sabally answered with another three-pointer, but the Fever remained unfazed.
No one does from 2-point range.
Mitchell sidesteps Agumbawale and buries a three.
With only a minute remaining in the half, Kalani Brown drove through for a layup and then hit a mid-range jumper to increase Dallas's advantage. Mitchell hit a two-pointer just before the buzzer, putting the half to a conclusion with the Dallas Wings leading the Indiana Fever by 2 points, 59-57. Caitlin Clark's effect on the game was evident, as she had already scored an astounding number of points before halftime, but the game remained very close.
A post move on everyone in this league.
Oh, and Howard is cooking here in the first half.
As the third quarter started, Aaliyah Boston wasted no time setting up Kelsey Mitchell for a beautiful layup, cutting into Dallas's advantage. A.R. Ogali of the Wings answered with a mid-range jumper to maintain the Wings ahead, but Mitchell, remaining aggressive, nailed a long two-pointer in response. Natasha Howard responded swiftly with a nice left-handed layup for Dallas, keeping the game close.
So Dallas has rattled off 7 in a row. Mitchell trying to answer, gets to the foul line and connects.
I could watch Kelsey Mitchell shift.
At this moment, Caitlin Clark regained her rhythm. She made a long two-pointer, demonstrating her scoring variety. Kelsey Mitchell responded with a three-pointer, pushing the Fever even closer to the Wings. The back-and-forth fight continued, with Tara Mao tipping in a missed jumper to give Dallas points. Boston, on the other hand, replied with a layup, and then another off a Clark assist, reducing Dallas's advantage even further.
Clark shaking off Sheldon, hits a deep.
Throughout the third quarter, both teams continued to exchange baskets. Sabally hit a three-pointer, but Mitchell quickly responded with one of her own, putting Indiana within striking distance. Sevi Uzun of Dallas hit a spectacular three-pointer from the corner, but Mitchell replied with a driving layup, showcasing her unwavering will to keep Indiana in the game. Clark, once again demonstrating her scoring skills, sank another three-pointer to close the margin.
Defense. Clark hangs and finishes.
With the game hanging in the balance, Clark's playmaking powers were put on full display. She found Lexi Hull with a wonderful pass, but the shot was missed. Regardless, Indiana's perseverance was paying off. By the conclusion of the third quarter, the Fever led the Dallas Wings by 1 point, 84-83. Clark's concentration and leadership were critical components of Indiana's comeback, and with just 1 quarter remaining, it was evident that this game would come down to the wire.
I would go, man.
And the Fever get stops on the defensive end.
This is where you can't afford game slippage. Every detail has to be sharp.
Tammy Bentley opened the fourth quarter with a reverse layup for 2 points, but Dallas's Tiara Mao replied shortly by tipping in a pass to keep the game tight. At this time, Caitlin Clark took control, proving why she is one of the league's most dominating players. Clark continued her scoring spree with back-to-back three-pointers, demonstrating her sharp shooting ability after driving to the basket for a difficult jump shot and following it up with a layup.
Clark off the screen. Clark launches, hits a three!
As the game progressed, Clark earned a foul and calmly hit all of her free throws, adding to her already amazing score. A.R. Ogali of Dallas scored a two-pointer for the Wings, but Kelsey Mitchell responded with a long three-pointer off a pass to maintain Indiana ahead. Sabally responded with a contested layup, but Clark's playmaking skills were on full show when she found Erica Dantas for a stunning corner three-pointer. Dantas followed up with another three-pointer to keep the Fever in charge.
Iverson cut into a ball screen.
Clark, yes!
Natasha Howard answered with a silky two-pointer for Dallas, but Caitlin Clark was unstoppable. After drawing another foul, she converted both of her free throws, increasing Indiana's advantage. As the game's closing minutes ticked away, the passion on the court peaked. Dallas, reluctant to let up, maintained the pressure on Indiana, but they were unable to succeed. With Clark leading the charge, the Fever edged the Dallas Wings 110-109.
Off in time. Well, right now it's a 1-point win for
Caitlin Clark's record-breaking effort not only earned a victory for the Indiana Fever, but also established her position in WNBA history, surpassing Simone Augustus's single-season scoring record was a momentous feat. But for Clark, the emphasis was always on winning. Her ability to concentrate under pressure, her great scoring touch, and her leadership on the floor have elevated her to the league's top ranks. As the Fever goes through the WNBA season, one thing is clear. Caitlin Clark is a force to be reckoned with, and her career is just starting.
On the floor, they'll go and check, but the bottom line is Indiana with 110 points.
With this win, the Indiana Fever have established themselves as genuine competitors, and Caitlin Clark's leadership will surely be a key factor in their success. Fans and observers alike are in awe of what Clark did on that incredible night, and the WNBA's future seems brighter than ever with women like her leading the way.
The WNBA MVP race has long been one of basketball's hottest subjects, and it is heating up again this season. But this time, it's not just about who is the greatest on the floor. It's about how we define value in women's basketball and whether the MVP evaluation method is even fair. What is the source of the controversy? Caitlin Clark, the rookie star who has been lighting up the WNBA, continues to be overlooked in the MVP race.
The WNBA just released their 2024 MVP ladder. A'ja Wilson 1, Nafisa Collier 2, Sabrina Ionescu 3, Breanna Stewart.
And Rachel Demita isn't having it. In one of her most recent rants, Demita pulls no punches as she criticizes the WNBA's decision-making process and blames the league for what many regard as a major error. This is more than simply a story about Caitlin Clark. It's about a system that seems to be shifting the goalposts, particularly when it comes to recognizing young, game-changing potential. Rachel Demita is going to blow the lid off the WNBA's MVP system.
And I honestly got flamed on Instagram for my take because I claimed that Caitlin Clark should be in this MVP conversation.
Before we discuss Rachel Demita's points, let's consider why Caitlin Clark is even in this discourse. She's not just any rookie. She's smashing records, setting new standards, and establishing herself as one of the most electric players the WNBA has seen in years. Clark, who has averaged more than 25 points per game since the All-Star break, is not only scoring but also helping the Indiana Fever go from one of the league's weakest teams to a playoff contender.
Realizes it. Clark trying to take her defender, pulls up and hits.
So, why is someone this dominating not higher up in the MVP rankings? What more could she possibly do to get recognition? This is where Rachel Demita comes in, challenging not just the WNBA MVP rankings, but also the whole methodology utilized to assess a player's worth. The WNBA just published their 2024 MVP ladder, which sparked significant outrage. A'ja Wilson leads the list, followed by Nafisa Collier, Sabrina Ionescu, and Breanna Stewart. And where does Caitlin Clark rank? Honorable mention. Yes, despite her exploits, Caitlin Clark is still merely an honorable mention in the MVP race. It seems that the better she accomplishes, the farther the goalposts are pushed. Rachel Demita, like many fans, is upset, and she is making sure everyone knows. Rachel Demita is no stranger to expressing her opinions, and this time she's criticizing the WNBA for what she regards as a clear snub. In a heated analysis, she claims that leaving Clark off the MVP list is more than an accident. It's a purposeful effort to withhold honor from a rookie who is achieving the inconceivable.
Knocking on the floor of first team, I think she's in there. And I'm gonna go out on a limb right here and say that she is top 3. My top 3, A'ja Wilson, Caitlin Clark, and Nafisa Collier.
Clark, according to Demita, isn't simply excellent. She's a top player. She is scoring more points than some of the MVP frontrunners, and her influence on the Indiana Fever is apparent. So, why is she not in the top 5? Demita has a notion that will make you doubt the overall fairness of the MPV system. Rachel Demita doesn't simply yell. She supports her claims with statistics. When you look at the figures, things begin to become really fascinating. Clark not only scores more than most MVP contenders, but she also assists more, steals more, and makes more three-pointers.
The pressure as Bonner can't hit. Fagbenle the rebound. Here comes Clark. Bouncing to Fagbenle.
Clark, for example, averages more assists and steals than Nafisa Collier and Breanna Stewart, respectively. Nonetheless, those players are regarded higher in the MVP debate. Demita cites this as proof that the WNBA's assessment standards are defective, or at least inconsistent. She is not alone. Both fans and experts are perplexed as to how the league can explain these rankings. Rachel Demita goes even further, equating Caitlin Clark's importance to that of Michael Jordan during his NBA career. Clark may not be the WNBA's Michael Jordan in terms of raw domination, but when it comes to team value, Demita believes Clark is on another level.
and Nafisa Collier? Yes. Is she a more valuable player to her team than Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier? That is where I'm not sure.
Jordan was regarded as the most valuable player year after year, not just because of his statistics, but also because of what he represented to his club and the league. Demita contends that Clark's influence on the Indiana Fever is equal. The Fever were one of the weakest teams last season, but due to Clark, they are suddenly in postseason contention. This type of shift should mean something, and Demita is irritated that it doesn't.
My top three: A'ja Wilson, Caitlin Clark, and Nafisa Collier. If we look at their stats, A'ja wipes the floor with both of them. The only categories that she doesn't have.
Demita feels Clark should not only be in the MVP debate, but also the top three. Clark's performance, according to Demita, is too amazing to pass up, and it goes beyond stats. It is about what she contributes to the team and the league as a whole. Rachel goes out on a limb and thinks Clark is already in the top 5 in MVP voting, not just on the verge of it. And if the WNBA continues to neglect her, it is not just an insult to Clark, but also damage to the MVP award's legitimacy. To make her argument, Rachel Demita compares Clark's debut season to that of another WNBA icon, Candace Parker. Parker's rookie season in 2008 was nothing short of legendary, but according to Demita, Clark is outperforming Parker in important categories like assists and steals.
Winning Rookie of the Year and WNBA MVP in her first season in the WNBA, and we talked about, can Caitlin Clark do it?
Parker averaged 18.5 points per game in her debut season, but Clark averages more. So why isn't Clark being touted as the next great thing, as Parker was? This is where Demita's case becomes more pointed. The WNBA seems to be adjusting the goalposts for Clark in ways that other players have not. This points to a far larger problem in women's basketball: how the WNBA handles its budding stars. Demita believes that by ignoring a talent like Clark, the league is sending the wrong message. Essentially, the WNBA is teaching young athletes that no matter how good they play, they will not get the accolades they deserve. This is about more than just one player not receiving an MVP nomination. It is about the WNBA's future and how it handles its most talented players. What does the lack of acknowledgement for athletes like Clark indicate about the league's priorities? One of Demita's most convincing arguments is that the MVP award is fundamentally subjective. It's not only about the numbers, it's about the players' stories, the influence they make on their teams, and even the prejudices of those voting.
Start to have this conversation. The MVP award is subjective. It's very hard to just go by numbers and hand out.
Demita draws analogies to the NBA MVP argument when players like Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander were argued to be more deserving. She claims that the same subjectivity exists in the WNBA, which is why athletes like Clark are disregarded despite having the numbers to back up their claims. Of course, the discussion of the WNBA MVP race is only complete with mentioning A'ja Wilson. She's definitely one of the finest players in the game right now, and Demita knows it. However, Demita contends that Wilson's domination should not exclude other players from being considered.
Yes. Is she a more valuable player to her team than Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier? That is where I'm not sure.
Yes, Wilson is the league's top player, but the MVP race should not be a given conclusion. Demita feels there is still space for argument, and players like Clark and Collier should be included in the discourse. One of the most contentious components of the MVP race is how much emphasis is placed on team performance. Demita wonders whether this is fair, particularly in a league like the WNBA, where not all clubs are created equal.
Because I think that there's a case to be made for Caitlin, and there's also a case to be made for Nafisa, and there might also be a case to be made for Stewie simply because the Liberty have been so dominant this season.
Clark may not be heading the league's greatest squad, but her contributions to the Indiana Fever are unmistakable. Demita believes that this kind of individual influence should be included even if the Fever isn't the top team in the rankings. Rachel Demita's argument revolves around a demand for change. She feels the WNBA should reconsider its MVP qualifications and make the process more open. Right now, it seems like the goalposts are continuously moving, and athletes like Clark are caught in the crossfire. Demita advocates for a more holistic approach to judging MVP candidates, one that considers not just numbers but also individual effect, team chemistry, and the season's overall context.
To even be, like this article says, in the top 5, if Caitlin Clark is not on the ballot, is not in that top 5.
As the WNBA continues to expand in popularity and awareness, it's important that the league gets its MVP vote right. Players like Caitlin Clark represent the future of women's basketball and deserve recognition for their efforts. Rachel Demita's impassioned cry for change connects with both fans and experts. Whether the WNBA listens remains to be seen, but one thing is certain, the MVP race will never be the same again. Rachel Demita has begun a discussion, not simply a rant against the MVP system. Her outspoken assessment has compelled fans and observers to examine how the WNBA judges its greatest players, and the debate is likely to continue for years.
Caitlin has all of those. She is tied for steals with Nafisa, and if you watch Asia play, you can see how she dominates the game. Like, she's...
Only time will tell if Caitlin Clark receives the accolades she deserves. But one thing is certain, with voices like Rachel Demita's on her side, Clark's case for MVP will not be overlooked. Thanks for watching today's video. If you appreciated this deconstruction of Rachel Demita's blistering criticism, please like, subscribe, and press the notification bell. We'll be keeping a close watch on the WNBA MVP race throughout the season, so stay tuned for more updates and analysis.
Have you seen how Caitlin Clark has been generating news across all sports media platforms recently? If you haven't seen him, you're missing out on one of the most entertaining basketball players of all time. Caitlin Clark has taken the sports world by storm, becoming a household name for skill, confidence, and game-changing performances. What began as a rising star in the collegiate basketball scene has swiftly evolved into a legend who is transforming the way we think about women's basketball, and she has now managed to humble ESPN journalists in a manner that no one expected.
Power block by Boston. Here comes Caitlin. Get it!
For years, ESPN and other sports publications have been chastised for underrepresenting women's sports, notably their coverage of the WNBA. However, Caitlin Clark has not only changed the narrative around women's basketball, but she has also pushed the media to sit up and pay notes in a manner they have never done before. With her on-court domination, fearless demeanor, and large fan following, she has embarrassed big media outlets, pushing them to see the grandeur of women's basketball that they previously disregarded. In doing so, she has propelled the WNBA to a level of notoriety that will permanently change the landscape.
And that's the way to push the ball in transition. Oh, that's not gonna waste much time. Caitlin Clark has...
Prior to Caitlin Clark's rise to popularity, the media, especially ESPN, mostly overlooked women's basketball. Their coverage of the WNBA was often scant and limited to off-peak hours, while in-depth analysis and big promotional efforts were mostly kept for men's sports. This neglect was especially evident when it came to players like Clark, whose extraordinary performances and numbers would have made headlines if they had occurred in the men's game. ESPN has an opportunity to get ahead of the curve by seeing Clark's potential early on. Her collegiate accomplishments were nothing short of spectacular, with her ability to score from any position on the floor, her passing range, and her basketball IQ garnering her comparisons to NBA great. However, the conventional sports media was reluctant to respond, often focusing on other issues and downplaying Clark's pioneering achievements.
Game attendance and per game TV viewership. But despite the attendance and viewership records, there seems to be some haterade in the league.
As Clark's impact expanded, it became clear that she was not receiving the press she deserved. Fans of the game started to wonder why one of the most entertaining players in basketball, male or female, was not getting the respect she plainly deserved. As a consequence, ESPN found itself playing catch-up, attempting to reclaim trust with basketball fans who had already made Caitlin Clark a household name. Caitlin Clark's ascent to popularity started long before the media welcomed her. She dominated college basketball, guiding her team to stunning feats that often left spectators and experts stunned. Clark became a highlight machine thanks to her 40-point performances, ability to shoot from deep, and remarkable talent for finding teammates with beautiful passes.
What's different about winning this a second time?
I think it's a little different. I think the biggest thing for myself is like, this is my senior year. It's
Her efforts in the NCAA women's basketball tournament were especially memorable, and it was during these high-stakes games that she fully established herself on a national scale. Clark led the Iowa Hawkeyes far into the tournament, putting up stat lines to match even the finest male athletes. Her aggressive approach to the game, pulling up for shots from far beyond the arc, facing multiple defenders, and producing clutch plays in crunch time, became the focus of the basketball world. Despite the media's slow response, fans were already deeply immersed in Clark's story. Social media became the forum for sharing, dissecting, and admiring her achievements. Videos of her performances went viral, with supporters praising her great skill while lamenting the lack of media attention she was getting.
WNBA Player of the Week. Surprise, surprise! Indiana Fever rookie sensation, Caitlin Clark. It's nothing really.
It all came to a head when Caitlin Clark's name became too prominent to ignore. During her most recent season, Clark delivered a streak of memorable performances. She broke records, guided her team to spectacular triumphs, and secured her legacy as one of the sport's finest players. However, ESPN, which was reluctant to recognize her full significance, continued to understate her accomplishments in their reporting.
Notched the first triple-double ever by a WNBA rookie and the first in Fever franchise history.
This all changed when Clark's fans and the rest of the basketball community decided to take action. The disparity between her performances and the media's lackluster coverage reached a critical point. Fans flooded social media with footage of Clark's highlights, criticizing ESPN for neglecting to give her the recognition she deserved. It became evident that conventional media outlets were out of touch with the basketball community, and ESPN found itself on the losing end of the argument. ESPN's humiliation came when Clark produced a game so dominating that ignoring it became impossible. After another outstanding performance in a nationally broadcast game, ESPN had no option but to give Clark the recognition she had long deserved. However, it was too late. The basketball world was already beyond them, and ESPN's effort to catch up seemed forced and fake.
Can you believe that? It's hard to believe. Well, this is where we land. To Chicago Sky down in 7th place, Indiana Fever.
Caitlin Clark's influence went beyond insulting the media. It also altered the course of the WNBA. Historically, the WNBA has failed to attract the same amount of media attention and fan enthusiasm as its male counterpart, the NBA. This lack of attention created a vicious cycle in which the league was unable to increase its fan base, and the media defended the lack of coverage by citing poor ratings. Clark's ascension has given the WNBA fresh vigor, not only because of her skill, but also because of how she has engaged fans. The media, obliged to recognize her brilliance, began to pay greater attention to the WNBA, and as a result, fans began to pay closer attention to the league as well. Clark's popularity grew, and more people tuned in to see her play, whether as a final-year college student or a prospective WNBA star.
You know, it doesn't happen without them. It doesn't happen without the amazing coaches. And, you know, to kind of end my career in this note and hopefully winning a national title would be perfect.
ESPN and other sites, seeing their error in underestimating Clark's power, started to enhance their WNBA coverage, focusing on the league's stars in ways they hadn't before. This change in focus is creating opportunities for other outstanding players in the WNBA, giving them the recognition they deserve and helping to expand the league. Caitlin Clark's presence has altered not just the media's perception of women's basketball, but also how other WNBA players are seen. Clark's leadership has had a knock-on effect, with media outlets now covering other league players more extensively. Players like Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, and Sabrina Ionescu are profiting from the increasing attention as the media recognizes the WNBA's potential as a major sports organization.
45 blocks last year, Clark for three! Clark, they said she has redefined what a good shot is.
Clark's impact extends to the way the game is played. Her distinctive basketball style, fast-paced, long-range shooting, and high basketball IQ has inspired younger players who see her as a role model. Her confidence and talent on the court have redefined what it means to be a dominating player in women's basketball, and other players are beginning to mimic her approach. In doing so, she contributes to the evolution of the game and raises the standard of play across the league. Caitlin Clark's ascension occurs at a time when the WNBA is poised for expansion. The league's viewership has steadily increased in recent years, and Clark's effect is just speeding up that trend. As more people tune in to see her play, the league is gaining a new generation of fans who are optimistic about the future of women's basketball.
Honestly, I have no idea. I was just trying to get to the handshake line and shake hands and, you know, be grateful that my team was in that position.
This increase in popularity also results in financial growth. With increased media and fan interest, the WNBA's sponsorship and broadcast contracts are growing more valuable. Brands who were previously reluctant to invest in women's basketball are now recognizing opportunities for expansion, which is helping to raise the league's image. Caitlin Clark's impact will continue to be an important part of the WNBA narrative as it grows. Her ability to captivate fans and command media attention is changing the league's perception, and her sustained success will will further strengthen the WNBA's position in the mainstream sports world. Caitlin Clark hasn't simply embarrassed ESPN, she's revolutionized the game. Her ascent to prominence has caused the media to reconsider how it covers women's sports, and as a result, the WNBA has received unprecedented attention. Her impact not only helps the league expand, but also inspires the next generation of basketball players. Clark's impact will be recognized not just for her extraordinary skill, but also for shifting the debate around women's basketball. By demanding the credit she deserves, she has created opportunities for other players and helped propel the sport to new heights. Caitlin Clark's effect has contributed significantly to the WNBA's continued popularity. She has shown that women's basketball is just as interesting, competitive, and deserving of attention as any other sport, permanently altering the landscape of the WNBA. The league's future looks better than ever, and Caitlin Clark is leading the way. The WNBA has always been very competitive, with players putting their heart and soul into every game. But lately, the discussion surrounding the MVP award has reached a fever pitch. A'ja Wilson, one of the WNBA's brightest talents, went off on what she sees as a tremendous injustice in the MVP race: Caitlin Clark's rejection of the prize title. What followed was nothing short of explosive, as A'ja Wilson launched a rage, sending shockwaves across the WNBA and its fandom.
Kelsey Plum playing Caitlin Clark, no catch, meaning she's not trying to let her get it back.
In this video, we'll explore the events that occurred, including why A'ja Wilson lost her cool and the drama surrounding Caitlin Clark's rejection. So brace up as we discuss what may be one of the most dramatic moments in WNBA history. To understand why A'ja Wilson's response was so strong, we must first accept her role in the WNBA. Since being selected as the first overall choice by the Las Vegas Aces in 2018, A'ja has been nothing short of exceptional. Her aggressive playing style, ability to dominate in the paint, and leadership characteristics have earned her a household name. Wilson, a two-time MVP and Olympic gold medalist, has constantly been in contention for the league's top honors. Wilson's intense competition and constant desire for achievement distinguish her as a great athlete. However, they also led to her angry response to Caitlin Clark's elimination from the MVP contest. Wilson's aggravation spilled out in a spectacular fashion as he understood the pressure and grandeur of winning the MVP award.
Indiana Fever rookie sensation, Caitlin Clark. It's nothing really to say other than that. She's winning Rookie of the Year. She's a top candidate for league MVP honors. She ain't beating A'ja Wilson for the MVP.
Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, has been surging to the forefront of the WNBA discourse. Clark was drafted by the Indiana Fever and joined the league with lofty hopes, and she has not disappointed. Caitlin Clark, known for her exceptional shooting range, court awareness, and ability to score from nearly anywhere, has made a significant impact in her first season. Many fans and commentators anticipated her not only to win Rookie of the Year, but also to be a strong contender for MVP.
A little step-up action right here.
Boston gets it back to Clark, sidesteps Howard, she will launch and knock down a three.
Clark's ability to perform well under pressure distinguishes her from other athletes. Whether it's hitting three-pointers from beyond the arc or providing clutch assists, she's constantly shown she can carry her team through the most difficult games. Despite this, Caitlin Clark's outstanding accomplishments did not transfer into MVP accolades this season, which has prompted great criticism, particularly among players such as A'ja Wilson.
The WNBA, she's just the fourth player to shoot at least 70% from three-point range on at least 20 three-point attempts.
The WNBA MVP award is one of the most coveted in the league. The award is given to the player regarded most important to their team's success, which is frequently determined by a mix of individual numbers, team performance, and on-court leadership. This year, however, the battle for MVP got acrimonious, with players, fans, and pundits all disputing who should win the title.
Caitlin Clark. It's nothing really to say other than that. She's winning Rookie of the Year. She's a top candidate for league MVP honors. She ain't beating A'ja Wilson for the MVP, but she's beating Angel Reese for the Rookie of the Year. That's a wrap. That's over. And props to Angel Reese, who's had a good year, by the way. Quick hitter number 3 goes to Chicago Sky rookie forward Angel Reese.
A'ja Wilson was once again in contention for MVP following another outstanding season. However, many believe that Caitlin Clark, despite being a rookie, had played at an MVP caliber level, making her a viable contender for the title.
And that's what the worst of cynics and critics do. And so you knew they were going to come for you. You had to know that. Now, to the degree that they're doing so, I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. But keep your spirits up, because you're at a decisive advantage, Angel Reese. You're at a decisive advantage because they made the mistake of letting you know who they are, whoever those people are. And now you have perfect justification for keeping people at bay and not letting people too close where they could potentially hurt you. It's something most people usually learn when they get older. You learned it younger, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Fans and observers cited Clark's domination on the court, ability to lead the Indiana Fever to the playoffs, and record-breaking statistics as reasons why she should be chosen MVP. Many people, including A'ja Wilson, were outraged by Caitlin Clark's exclusion from the MVP competition. But what actually transpired that prompted Wilson's public outburst?
She's pretty incredible. I mean, you watch her and it's unguardable. There's nothing anybody can do to stop it. Like, she's just that dominant, whether it's her mid-range game.
Just 2 minutes earlier, A'ja Wilson resorted to social media to express her displeasure, and it was not nice. In a series of angry tweets, Wilson lashed out at the WNBA, calling Caitlin Clark's MVP rejection absurd and a complete joke. She expressed surprise that someone of Clark's caliber could be left out of the MVP race, particularly given her effect on the league this season.
By any means necessary, KP's going to do it on both sides of the basketball, and she's one of the most hardworking players I've ever seen play the game of basketball. She's always in the gym. Like when they say first one in.
Wilson did not hold back. In one of her postings, she said, "I can't believe we're out here pretending Caitlin Clark didn't just change the game for the WNBA. How will you ignore that? This league is sleeping on the future, which is disgusting." Her response was quick and strong, sparking a blaze of debate among fans and teammates. The Twitter storm was just the beginning. Wilson's words grabbed the attention of media outlets and sports commentators who jumped right on the topic. Wilson was clearly furious, not just about the rejection, but also about what it meant for the WNBA. To her, the league's inability to recognize Clark's genius seemed like a step backward in terms of advancing the game and promoting fresh talent.
It's time for WNBA Today because we have a big game tonight. Two of the most prolific #1 overall picks in WNBA history. They go head to head as Caitlin Clark and the Fever host A'ja Wilson and the defending champion Aces. Now, A'ja has dominated in their matchups, winning both meetings so far, but we know that Caitlin has just been a revelation in her rookie season, and Clark was asked about the challenges that come with facing A'ja Wilson.
As soon as A'ja Wilson's words reached social media, replies poured in from all over the internet. Fans of both Wilson and Clark were quick to respond, with many repeating Wilson's comments. The hashtag Caitlin Clark for MVP started trending on Twitter, with supporters urging the WNBA to rethink its MVP selection. Even players from around the league joined in. Several renowned WNBA players tweeted in favor of A'ja Wilson's outburst, stating that Caitlin Clark's absence from the MVP contest was unjust. Kelsey Mitchell, Clark's Indiana Fever teammate, tweeted, "I've been saying this. Caitlin has been on fire all season. How is she not in the MVP conversation?"
Two-time WNBA MVP A'ja Wilson joined us here on SportsCenter. A'ja, I hope you could hear some of the stats we were just throwing at the audience coming off that game. You guys started 5-5 in the season, but you've won 5 straight now. What do you attribute to this recent run of success?
I mean, just trusting the process, but also our defensive end. I think we really settled down on the defensive end, and that's where we can really play our basketball. But sometimes you got to trust the process. Adversity hit us a little early, but I'm glad it did, so we can learn how to grind out wins because this league is way too good. So we're slowly getting back to Aces basketball in our system, and I'm feeling like we're at the right time of our season right now.
28 points, 9 rebounds for you, season high 34 for Kelsey Plum. She was reluctant to talk too much about herself a few moments ago with Angel Gray. What do you say about Kelsey Plum as it relates to doing what is necessary to win a game?
By any means necessary, KP's going to do it on both sides of the basketball, and she's one of the most hardworking players I've ever seen play the game of basketball. She's always in the gym. Like when they say first one in, last one to leave, that is.
On the other side, other fans believe Wilson's reaction was disrespectful and unwarranted. Critics claim that Wilson should concentrate on her performance and let the MVP process unfold. Nonetheless, the vast majority of fans seem to agree with Wilson, claiming that Clark's rejection was one of the most contentious in recent WNBA history.
So here is the scouting report from Caitlin Clark. I mean, look at those words. Mid-range game. She can put it on the floor. Defensive player, unguardable. We are witnessing the greatest scoring.
As the uproar over her MVP snub heated up, all eyes shifted to Caitlin Clark herself. Fans and media outlets were curious how the emerging celebrity would react to the outpouring of support from A'ja Wilson and others. However, Caitlin Clark has yet to comment on the topic. Clark's choice to remain silent might be strategic. Clark, known for her professionalism and maturity both on and off the court, may choose to let her game speak for itself rather than become involved in the continuing turmoil. Nonetheless, her silence has not prevented admirers from guessing her true feelings about the MVP snub.
The only reason that I brought up the first part about Angel Reese is this. Caitlin Clark is box office. She is a star. And Angel Reese is to be completely believed that there's no hate. They both get along. They're cool with each other. They're high-end competitors, etc., etc. But you've known they were coming for you when you were waving your hands in your face to mock Caitlin Clark when you were beating her for the national championship. And you also are old enough to know that in this society, whether they want to admit it or not,
some anticipate Clark will ultimately issue a statement or discuss the subject in a post-game interview. Others believe she prefers to concentrate on her next game and is keen to prove the critics wrong with her performance on the court. Whatever her answer, one thing is certain. Caitlin Clark's MVP rejection has become the talk of the league.
With A'ja Wilson, who is having career highs across the board. And there are 3 ways that make A'ja Wilson great, and I'll show you exactly as we take it to the court, starting with her.
To properly comprehend the intensity of A'ja Wilson's response, you must first understand the importance of the MVP award in the WNBA. The MVP award is more than simply individual honors. It reflects a player's effect on their club and the league as a whole. For many players, receiving the MVP award represents the pinnacle of their hard work, devotion, and contributions to the game.
A'ja Wilson with Wilson mid-range where she's 2 for 2.
For A'ja Wilson, who has won the honor twice, the MVP title means much more. Wilson understands what it takes to be an MVP and is grateful for the honor. This is likely contributing to her displeasure at Caitlin Clark's omission from the MVP contest, as she believes Clark deserves equal praise for her game-changing performance. Furthermore, the MVP award has the potential to shape a player's legacy. Winning the MVP not only secures a player's place in history, but also opens the door to sponsorships, media, opportunities, and future success in their career. For a rookie like Caitlin Clark, earning MVP in her first season would have been a huge accomplishment, perhaps propelling her career to even higher heights.
3 closeouts each possession, and if you do that, you're probably going to have a team in rotation, and you're probably going to have some mismatches.
Clark step back 3.
Another issue contributing to the MVP dispute is the media's involvement in framing the narrative. Sports media has an important role in promoting player achievements, changing public opinion, and eventually influencing awards such as MVP. Throughout the season, the media concentrated on established players like A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart, while Caitlin Clark, despite her amazing season, received less national recognition. This media prejudice may have contributed to Clark's MVP snub. As Wilson pointed out in her outburst, the league and its media partners may be sleeping on the future, failing to identify the next generation of potential. The WNBA is at a crucial point, and Caitlin Clark represents the league's future. Ignoring her in the MVP debate sends the wrong message to fans and aspiring athletes who look up to Clark as a role model.
When you're talking about Caitlin, I think there's no denying her ability to influence your offense, right? When you think about different players, you think about, oh, they can really score the ball, they can really push the ball in transition.
A'ja Wilson's response to Caitlin Clark's MVP rejection underlines her status as a WNBA leader. During her career, Wilson has utilized her position to advocate for topics that are important to her, like social, justice, and improved compensation and recognition for WNBA players. Wilson's current outburst is just another example of her sticking up for what she feels to be right. Wilson's leadership goes beyond her team and performance. By openly criticizing the WNBA's MVP selection, she advocates for justice and pushes the league to develop. Her willingness to speak up, even at the risk of causing controversy, demonstrates her commitment to the future of the WNBA and her desire to see players like Caitlin Clark get the credit they deserve.
She's been hot, shooting 43% during that time from the 3-point line.
Wilson all mid-range and all day.
With the debate in full swing, the major question is, how will the WNBA react? The league has yet to release a formal comment on Caitlin Clark's MVP snub or Aja Wilson's angry response. However, considering the severity of the debate and the broad attention it has received, the WNBA may feel pressured to address the issue. The league might react in many ways. It may address the criticism and explain the MVP selection process, or it could sit mute and let the topic flow naturally. In any case, the league must tread cautiously since this issue has the potential to influence public opinion of the MVP award and the WNBA's dedication to developing new talent.
We do that in the WNBA.
As the MVP debate continues, both Caitlin Clark and Aja Wilson will surely be in the limelight. Clark's MVP disappointment might inspire her future performances. She's already established herself to be a powerhouse on the court, and this recent development may encourage her to climb even higher in her career. This event demonstrates Aja Wilson's leadership and enthusiasm for the game. While her reaction was dramatic, it also demonstrates how much she cares about the league's future and the recognition of good players. Wilson's willingness to stand up for Caitlin Clark might cement her place as one of the WNBA's most important leaders, both on and off the field.
Some people didn't expect her to be as good as she was early. I did. I thought she would be.
To summarize, Aja Wilson's emotional response to Caitlin Clark's MVP rejection has sparked a discourse about more than just one prize. It's a conversation about the WNBA's future, how to recognize emerging talent, and how leadership shapes the league. As we wait to see how the WNBA reacts, one thing is certain, this will be recognized as a watershed event in the league's history. Caitlin Clark's influence on the WNBA is evident, and although she may have been overlooked this season, her future is very promising. Aja Wilson's strong enthusiasm continues to drive the discourse, and her leadership on and off the court establishes her as a real legend in the sport.